So today I am joined by Mike. Mike, tell us who you are, what you do, and how you came about.
My name is Mike Harrison-Lamond, and I have a few roles in the arts industry. First and foremost, I'm a studio owner. I've had Academy of Dance in Melbourne for the last 15 years with my partner, Nate. I'm the vice chair of Dance Arts Alliance, which is an advocacy body that we set up during COVID, initially in Victoria, to make sure that we had representation and a good operating environment through COVID. And since then, it's actually gone Australia-wide. And our whole point of Dance Arts Alliance is to have a safe and regulated industry for us to operate in, and to have some more equity and support for funding and other things, so we can actually be sustainable businesses into the future. And I've just started a company called Calibrate Dance, which is selling goods and services that have been very successful in our dance studios to the rest of Australia, to actually get more money and revenue into dance studios. Everything I'm working towards is actually making sure that we have a sustainable industry.
Oh wow, I love that because this industry is it's so forever changing. And I love that you talked about Dance Arts Alliance. How did that come about?
That all started at the start of COVID, where in Victoria, dance studios were placed into the same category as brothels. So in terms of the risk, which made zero sense. I've always said I feel that government look at the dance industry as kind of like that miscellaneous sort of thing. They don't really understand what it is. So we always go into that sort of table at the wedding that you just put everyone in. You're not really sure what to do. I've got a background in, or had been doing advocacy in a government setting. So I know how government works. So I started working with some other studio owners in terms of providing a voice through journalists, through press releases, and really trying to educate the government while getting us better operating restrictions. And then from there, it just sort of took off. We became very vocal through COVID. There are other industry bodies that are representing dance, but there's no one that actually specifically represents dance and performing arts studio owners and teachers. And also, we're not funded by government at all. So all of our money comes in from members, and it goes back into supporting the membership. So we kind of operate more like a union, and it means that we can be fiercely independent and be very vocal about what we need, and we're not beholden to any government body.
How did the dance studio owners respond to all of that? Because obviously COVID was a hard time, and then we've moved out of COVID now. How is it going now on the other end with dance studio owners and advocacy?
We had a spike of around about 200 studios initially through COVID. I think there was a lot of anger and frustration and obviously anxiety around operating during COVID. Once we got out of COVID, we can probably argue that we're still in the effects of that anyway. The membership sort of dropped down to around about 100, 110 studios at the moment. But we're finding that more people understand that the industry is woefully misrepresented and underfunded Australia-wide. And I think that's when more studios are now sort of going, actually, we need an ongoing voice to support us. What was evident during COVID when we were lobbying the different departments is that we don't fall under arts, we don't fall under education, and we don't fall under sports and rec. We span all three of those industries in terms of government representation, but there's no one specifically to say, yes, we are your body in government that can actually represent you as you need it. So that's why we're sort of talking to government at the moment about becoming a recognised body. We've been around for over 3 years now, so we do qualify as a peak body.
Okay.
So it's ongoing work, and working with like some great studio owners across the country. We've got members in 4 states now, and
Yay,
all of us on the
that's
board
good.
are all studio owners. And I feel like what's been frustration for us is that we need studio owners representing studio owners and teachers. So, there's a lot of other industries that work, and they're sort of doing work on our behalf. But we're like, but you're not actually studio owners. You don't know the nuances and the issues that we have day to day. That needs to be led by us, which is why we will be regulated at some point in the future, which is why we need to do the work and lead that, which is why we're really keen to make sure that we have a voice in our own development into the future.
No one knows our industry better than what we do, because we are the ones that are in it. We are the ones that are living it and breathing it and creating it as well. Let's have a chat then about your dance studio. Tell me a bit about that, because I've heard it's a little bit epic and a little bit big. How did you start that, and how did you get to where you are today?
It's a little bit crazy. So my husband Nathaniel is a dancer and came through the whole dance industry, went on to train with the Australian Ballet School, Dance World, went overseas, did the whole, I would say, pretty typical sort of pathway for a professional dancer. My background is I worked in the arts, and I was a performer when I was younger, and I've always worked in the arts or for the arts, and specifically around business, communications, marketing. So when I met him back in 2010, he had a small studio in a church hall, which was, again, very typical. They had like the two little like studios going. And then we kind of, I guess I barged my way in, because I'm a very, driven and supportive person, but I can't help myself. So if I see something that needs to be sort of worked on, I'm like, why don't you do this? Let's try that. And it just progressed from there, that we had built our studio. I think initially had 100 students, and then we got to about 700. And then we found this amazing fire station near where we were, and it took us 3 years to find a place. We took out a massive loan. We fit that place out with, the works. Like, we stripped the whole building down. We got a 15-year lease. We put in like the sprung floor. We got the split systems. We got 6 studios in there. And we opened 6 weeks before COVID. So, the worst possible timing. Yeah, it was awful. But we didn't shrink too much during COVID, because we were really on it. We were online within 24 hours. All of our teachers had headset mics. We had floor mics at the taps. We had like studio desks in the computers, so you could like control the noise, because we knew that if the children weren't having a good experience online, they wouldn't stay. So we really busted ourselves to get going, and we only dropped about 20% through COVID. And then we sort of have come out the other side. We've got nearly 1,100 students now in our facility, running about 200 classes a week. So it's a massive thing. But what we did was we kept all of our staff. The day that JobKeeper came out, every single one of our staff was signed up, and we've not lost anyone through COVID. For us, our staff are our family. They represent our culture. We've got a lot of staff been with us for 10, 15, 20 years, around the same time we've had the studio. So it's the backbone of the people, and the culture is really what's kept us going. And we have a great relationship with the parents. We don't do much marketing, because there's like a huge word of mouth in our community. But yeah, I think it's all about leading from the top down and being really good about how you do it. And I guess not taking things personally, making sure you're like really professional on a day-to-day basis, and doing your best for, everything is child-centric, giving a positive experience to the children. I'm totally rambling now, but that's how we sort of built up the business, and that's how it's been sustaining ever since. So I'm really sort of happy with where we're at with the business.
Are you guys still in the fire station at the moment? Because that's unheard of. I've never heard of someone being like, hey, we're just gonna like lease out a firehouse and just, turn it into a dance studio. One, what possessed you to do that? 2, how did that come about, and where did the fire station go?
The fire station moved, I think, a suburb down the road, and we saw the opportunity. And there were 2 buildings side by side, and we had the vision that in one building we would have a training facility with a studio, and the second building would turn into a black box theatre. We spoke to our financial planners, and they said, look, your studio is growing. You may as well use that space for another 2 studios, which we thought, as sad as it was to not have an arts performance facility, it made business sense. So that's sort of what's come of it.
While growing your dance studio, so you're over 1,000 kids now, what along the way was sort of like the hardest thing for you to do? Like, if you were to look back and you looked at yourself maybe like 10 years ago and yourself was struggling, how could you now help that person in the past, and what was the problem?
I think the biggest learning I have had is about making sure that you have data to support your business growth and your decisions. I think we all go so fast in everything that we're doing, and we just go from job to job to job, and we're doing a whole lot of things, and sort of stepping out of that and being strategic and having data that actually helps you in your decision making would have saved us in terms of following our heart and our guts with things, which, probably 3/4 of the time all panned out well. But there were things that we did that would go, we did that for the love of it. We did that for the betterment of the kids, but it was not a commercially successful decision we made. So I think now we're really good at being able to track how we're going. And if you can map how each class is tracking in terms of profit within your business, you can make those decisions to go, you know what, this new music theatre program we're putting in is losing money, but on the whole, the business is okay. And we do want to have a strong music theatre component. So we can take a punt on that, knowing that the rest of the business is supporting that and it will grow. And we'll do some marketing based on that. But I think having that information to help, and it's freeing yourself up to have time to do that. Be strategic. Have that sort of time in your week where you can think about where you want to go and that big picture thinking, rather than like, oh my God, I have to send this email to these people, I have to do this, all the doing, which has to be done, but it's having the I guess the confidence in yourself to know that taking time out is not wasting time. It's actually helping in terms of where your studio is going to head.
You said that you've just opened a new business that does help dance studio owners. How do you help dance studio owners?
Products and services that will support a business. So we've been manufacturing our own uniform for 8 years now. So we realized, 10 years ago that everyone needs to have a uniform. So why don't we actually bring that into the studio? We have a syllabus that we're writing at the moment. We've actually had it in the studio for years. Everything that we do, we come to a studio with a strategy and a product. So if we sat down and I talked to you about your studio, I'd say, great, have you thought about what you're doing with your apparel or your teamwear or something like that? So I can talk studio owner to studio owner about an approach and then also the product that goes along with that. I think pre-COVID, I felt like a lot of studios were unnecessarily competitive. We're coming from a different industry into dance. I didn't understand why there'd be studio owners talking negatively about other studios in the area, where you wouldn't have a cafe doing that, because everyone's got a different offering. And then people realize that, oh, well, there's lots of cafes in this area. It's a really good area to be in. There's lots of opportunities for my kids to do performing arts and dance or cheer or whatever it is. Like, I think that has really shifted post-COVID. So why don't we take the things that have worked really well for us in the business that have helped us? It's talking to studio owners about how you can navigate what you have and then do it in a way that's cost effective. We've also got a way that we can centralize, HR, onboarding, training, payroll, invoicing. It's about, rather than a studio owner having to do 50 jobs, you can we employ someone who does the accounting side. But it's about going into a studio saying, how can we help you? And then actually having products and services that support that. It doesn't make any sense that for one business, we had these products and services that were spent 15 years developing, where we can actually go, well, everyone can have access to that, because it's supporting all the dance and performing arts studios to do that. And I think that's a really good thing.
Yeah. Wow. That's a lot. So you're doing so much, Mike. What? So you got Dance Arts Alliance, you've got your studio, and then you have Calibrate.
Yes.
That's how do you have time?
I don't know. You just live with the saying, if you want something done, give it to a busy person. You know what it's like.
Yeah, give it to a busy person and we'll get it done, and we'll stress about it, but it will get done at 3 a.m. in the morning.
Yes. Some days you feel, oh my gosh, there's so much on our plate. But then you think, Do you know what though? I can take time and have a conversation with someone else at 11 o'clock in the morning because I can. So what we're
Yeah.
doing now, like it provides that flexibility. And I think what I've learned in the past couple of years is to stop looking at time and effort in the traditional way. So if you're in a job at 9 to 5, you're like, you've got to do 8 hours, you've got to like be attributing everything. And like, it's a very old fashioned way of thinking. Whereas you look at the effort of what you do, but you also need to value your own time in the business, which is what I was saying before about having strategy, like plan out half a day on a Monday that you're just going away and you're working on your business. Like, yes, you could pay someone to do the stuff at the front desk, but the value of what you're doing, we don't value ourselves enough. Come and visit your studio and you see it through fresh eyes and they go, wow, this is amazing. I think sometimes like it shouldn't take a stranger to come into your space to remind you that you're doing really good stuff. And this is what I always like trying to help people with. That's a studio owner. You go, no one else has got the guts to do what you're doing. And the number of people who will talk about your business in the community, you'll never hear from. Like there's such conversations happening that you have no idea about. And it's sad that sometimes you feel like you're on your own, but then you may hear the occasional thing you go, I am doing well. It's about just giving yourself a bit of self-love and saying, this has taken a lot to get this studio up and where I'm at. So I always said to studio owners, be kind to yourself. And yes, there's going to be hard days, but also make sure you celebrate what you're doing and what you're achieving.
You need to be a motivational speaker, but just for dance studio owners. Just for studio owners. You need your own like episodes, just like Motivational Monday with Mike. There you go.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's all the things that you're doing fantastically in your dance studio. Have you been to the Australian Dance Festival before?
I'm so excited to come to ADF. I've heard wonderful things about it. It's going to be interesting because I'm there with three hats I'll be there talking about Dance Arts Alliance and obviously from a studio's perspective, as a mentor, as the stuff I'm doing, Calibrate. I'm going to be running around ADF like some sort of crazy person based on my scheduling. But I'm so excited to talk. And I get so energized talking to other people in our industry about what they're doing and finding ways to connect in with other people. So I can't wait for it.
ADF is like insane. The first time that I walked in, I was like, whoa, this is everything that I thought it was going to be, but like more. And that's not even like, that's not an understatement. That's not me talking it up. That's like, holy cow, there's so many people here. Like there's so many people. There's so many great like workshops. There's so many great teachers and studio owners that come. There's so much talent, so many dancers that come and take the workshops and experience just everything. And then you need to see, like, this is no joke. I died watching the shows. I sat there and I've never gasped. I've never like in my life, but watching the shows was just, everything was next level. Like everything was just top tier, fantastic. And I feel like that's how it's going to be with the Teachers VIP Lounge this year, is that we've taken it to the next level. We have amazing people like you coming in to be a mentor, which I think will be fantastic because I love the Victorian representation. I love that. So, no, I'm excited for you to experience what ADF is.
I'm really keen to sort of get in there and talk with people and work out how I can help within the stuff that I've been doing, but also how to learn as well. I think, I'm a big believer in that we're all on an ongoing learning journey, and there's never a day where I feel like I've nailed everything. So I love just sharing with people and finding new ways to do things. So this is a great opportunity. I get really excited to be in a room with people and talking about everything. And then I know that night I'll go back to the hotel room and like probably have a bath in the dark because it's so overwhelming for these sorts of things as well. But yeah, it's something that I think we need more of in the industry, and I really get excited and I really appreciate the work that goes into this. So I know setting up Australian Dance Festival would be a monumental effort.
Yeah, beautiful. Okay, thank you so much for joining me, Mike. I really appreciate it.
With you.
And we will see you at ADF as well.